Hi, I'm Jason Kahn. I'm the Managing Director in charge of our ILS insurance practice here in Bermuda. I've been a partner for about 15 years. I've been in Bermuda for 20 years. And during that time, I've worked predominantly in property and catastrophe reinsurance business. So I have a unique insight into a number of these ILS types of products. And I think that's why the firm asked me to take the lead in the ILS market here. An insurance-linked security is essentially it's an instrument that provides protection for a buyer in a collateralized form against an insurance loss. And that insurance loss could be an event such as an earthquake in California, or a hurricane in Florida, or an extreme mortality type of a loss. Let's say it's a pandemic flu or something like that. And the unique thing about them are that it takes away the counterparty risk from the buyer's perspective. So in the traditional market, you had insurance contracts between two companies, and when one insurance company buys a protection from another, that buyer assumes the credit risk, the counterparty risk of the company it does business with. But in an insurance-linked security structure, that counterparty risk is removed and replaced by funds that are placed in a dedicated trust account that is only available for use by the purchaser in the event of a loss. So it really takes away the counterparty risk from the buyer's perspective, and that's one of the reasons we've seen some growth in this area in the last several years. I think these products have been around for a while, so they've been around for 15 years or more. Certainly the early catastrophe bonds were done 15 years or more ago. And I think we've seen a few things happen over the last several years. Firstly, the costs of doing these have come down substantially. The costs really were somewhat prohibitive in the early days, but now we've got a greater volume of these bonds. There's more parties that have got the necessary knowledge and experience to bring these to market a little bit on a more cost-effective basis than perhaps we've seen in the past. We've also seen some larger events. So World Trade Center, we've seen Hurricane Katrina. Some of those events have really challenged the stability of traditional reinsurers, and we've seen some companies go to the wall as a result of that. And I think investors are really looking for the security that a collateralized ILS product brings. So that has certainly helped with growth. The other thing I would say is that we've seen some improvement in modeling over the last 10 to 15 years or so. So where we talked about a 2% risk of default, that is really driven by a modeled analysis of, let's say, the impact of a Category 4 hurricane hitting the Florida coast. And the sophistication of the modeling and the ability of the modelers to predict the magnitude of an event happening and the probability of it happening have really improved substantially as we've had more events. They get better at calibrating their models to predict outcomes. And I think that's led to some investor confidence, greater investor confidence. And I think that's led to more money coming into this space. And then finally, I would also add that we are in an environment at the moment where there is very little in the way of yield in the traditional markets. And a lot of institutional money and other money is looking for yield and looking for a home to get a good reward without taking undue risk. And I think that has also driven some money into this space because the yields are very attractive relative to the risk. So if you bundle all those things together, I think we've seen some fantastic growth in this area, certainly in the last 5-6 years, and I personally expect it to continue for the foreseeable future as well. Bermuda is the natural home for these vehicles. We already have some of the world's top talent in the property catastrophe market on the island. Some of the world's top underwriters are here that are working for the Class 4 commercial property catastrophe reinsurers. We have some of the world's top modelers here. We have some of the world's top legal brains in the reinsurance industry that are here. We have some of the world's top accounting brains that are in the reinsurance industry that are here. And we have one of the world's leading regulatory jurisdictions that is used to regulating the reinsurance market and the property catastrophe market that's also here. So when you bundle all those things together, Bermuda is an overwhelming leader in this field. So I think because of that, we've seen a lot of these ILS structures and a lot of these ILS vehicles come to the island to be able to tap into the expertise that we have on the island. And certainly the regulatory environment is sensible and appropriate here. So it's not overly burdensome. The regulator doesn't regulate an ILS vehicle the way that it would regulate an insurance company, because an insurance company is dealing with members of the public that are somewhat, let's say, unsophisticated in insurance, whereas the ILS market is really it's done between grown-ups, and you have sophisticated counterparties that really don't need the heavy level of regulation that an insurance company would have. And I think we designed a regulatory framework that works extremely well for these vehicles. It's cost effective. You can do some of these structures in a special purpose insurer that only needs $1 of capitalization to set up. And I think you have a fee structure here that is extremely competitive. When you wrap all those things together, it makes Bermuda a really, really attractive jurisdiction to base these vehicles. I think the future's bright. I think some of the capital that's come into the ILS space is permanent and a little bit maybe opportunistic. We may see some institutional investors just taking advantage of the enhanced yields that are available relative to the corporate bond market. But overall, I think the capital that's here is largely here to stay. I think in terms of growth, I think we're seeing more and more investors looking to diversify their investment portfolios and get some exposure to this market. As a result of that, I think that will drive growth. I think we'll see growth through the same perils, so windstorm and earthquake. I think we'll see those the buyers of those risks diversify. So at the moment, the buyers tend to be North American, European, Japanese. I think in the future we'll see a greater geographic spread of some of those types of bonds. And I also think we'll see growth in the types of perils that are covered. So we've seen some interest around things like satellite, offshore energy. We've seen a little bit of these already, but I think we may see some greater growth in these types of products as well. So I think we'll see diversification geographically and diversification in types of risks that are covered. And when you marry that up with the increased funds that are looking to get into this space, I think we will see continued growth in the ILS market over the foreseeable future. So I think the future's bright. Well, KPMG has been working in this space for 15 years or more, and we've really been at the centre, at the forefront of a lot of what's happened. Our role, people tend to think of us just as auditors, but we do so much more than that. We have an actuarial team here of 5 people, 5 actuaries. They have fantastic experience in the property catastrophe arena. They are sophisticated modelers. They have great insight into the types of reserves that need to be held when these catastrophe events happen. And then we also have a lot of experience around the audit of the claims audits. So when an event happens, investors generally would like confidence around the moral hazard of an insurer paying the claim and not making fraudulent claims into the ILS structure. So what a claims reviewer would do, and what KPMG would do in this role, is actually go in, inspect the claims, make sure that the claim is covered under the insurance policy, make sure there's been appropriate due diligence around the claim itself, that the valuation is acceptable, and that the claim has been appropriately paid and authorised. That can be extremely valuable in adding a level of credibility and confidence to an investor when they're looking to invest in these types of products. We also do tax work, so certainly to the extent that there is US investors in catastrophe bonds or ILS funds, we can certainly help investors with some of their compliance returns. We also can do tax planning for individuals and for corporations around this space as well. So there's a real wealth of expertise we have in this area, and I would venture that we are the leading firm in this space.